Hello everyone, welcome to the Project Veritas infamous wall of shame, where journalists' reputations go to die, where journalists have to print retractions and corrections and articles questioning our ethics. Sometimes they mock us, sometimes they poke us, but they themselves get poked as they project. This goes to Gizmodo. Headline, Ida leaves Project Veritas' New York office in shambles. He's referring to the fact that a hurricane, or the remnants of a hurricane, came through the town of Mamaroneck, New York, on a floodplain here in Westchester, New York, just north of New York City, and pretty much destroyed our office. Now, this headline mocked us and called us a far-right disinformation group. They were forced to retract that. This is quite an interesting one. Cue the RETRACTO theme song. So in this Gizmodo article titled, Ida leaves Project Veritas New York office in shambles. Now this byline, it comes from Tom McKay. You can tweet at him here, at the Tom Zone. He tweeted out November 5th, I'm showing this to you to show you what type of person Mr. McKay is, because after he retracted this, and we'll get to that in a minute, he tweeted this out, quote, the FBI raided 2 locations linked to Project Veritas this week. That was November 5th, the FBI raids. Whereas locations associated with Gizmodo.com have been raided by the FBI exactly 0 times. I'm not sure what he means by that. His brothers and sisters at the ACLU, the Reporters Committee, and other mainstream news organizations condemned the raids, but he's mocking us. Maybe that's because Mr. McKay was forced to retract. So before he wrote, photos posted by the far-right disinformation group show its Mamaroneck, New York office in ruins. Let's see what he wrote before. He said, Project Veritas is the conservative outlet best known for a series of supposedly, quote, investigative, like laser, in which they deploy activists using fake IDs and false pretenses to trick Democrats and other opponents of Republican dogma into saying ill-advised things on camera. In one case, trying to get Donald Trump's former national security advisor drunk. That's quite a claim. So they could record him shit-talking the former president. So he's doing a couple things there. He's just making shit up, right? That's the first thing he did. We never got the national security advisor drunk. We never attempted to do that. He's also ascribing motive to us by making up the reason why I would do this imaginary thing. While Project Veritas is of course, we're a notorious disinformation shop, but we'll concede it's possible the video was selectively shot to showcase the worst of the damage, that more was recoverable than they let on. But it goes on. This guy, who's accusing Project Veritas of disinformation, then goes on to insinuate that these photographs of our office, which was flooded by water, and the flood was an actual thing that happened, if you don't believe me, Senator Chuck Schumer was literally standing across the street with a bunch of people right after the flood. Mamaroneck, New York, FEMA even came here and set up tents on the avenue. But this guy, who's accusing me of disinformation, he's projecting onto me what he's guilty of. This guy's actually trying to imply a conspiracy that the flood didn't happen, or didn't happen to the extent that it happened. Like we caused the flood? He says, quote, we'll go to any rock bottom to cook up a damaging smear or self-promoting narrative. Faking this level of damage seems rather out of its competency, but we'll concede it's possible the video was selectively shot to showcase the worst of the damage, that more was recoverable than they let on, or the extent of the thrashing was exaggerated. I don't even know what to say. This is outrageous. Look at this picture outside our office. There were boats in the street. People's livelihoods in Mamaroneck, New York were destroyed. Businesses were destroyed. The building next to us, all their beverages were destroyed. People almost died. The water was up to the waist and above. Some of our employees almost perished. And you have the conceit to claim that this didn't happen? So our lawyers sent Mr. McKay an email. The article you published, which is captioned, Ida leaves Project Veritas New York office in shambles, includes incorrect and defamatory statements. So afterwards, Tom McKay took out of the caption that we're a disinformation group. Now he said photos posted by Project Veritas show its Mamaroneck offices in ruins. It also adds Project Veritas insists its investigation pursue the truth regardless of ideology and denies selective editing. But then he adds a sentence. He says, quote, Project Veritas tried to frame CNN as participating in a conspiracy to promote awareness. I didn't try to frame anyone. I quoted the man. You can actually see his lips moving. This is the CNN control room director, Charlie Chester at CNN, telling our undercover reporter,
we're going to start focusing mainly on climate like global warming, and like that's going to be our next, it's going to be our focus. Like,
so you just saw in the clip, Chester was saying that was going to be their focus. I'm reporting what he said, and Gizmodo is characterizing me, quoting him as a, quote, trying to frame him as participating in a conspiracy to promote awareness of climate change. That's a pretty loose use of the word conspiracy. Does a journalist who quotes somebody else necessarily make him a conspiracy artist for quoting the person doing the deed? This is how these people do it. This is how they use language. At the end of the paragraph, he says it's also made fierce rainstorms like what remnants of Ida reportedly did to Project Veritas more likely. So he's trying to insinuate that me quoting this man, saying his agenda at CNN, it somehow makes me a hypocrite because I deserved the storm that happened. Unbelievable, but Gizmodo printed a massive update. I'm going to read it to you. Quote, after publication, an attorney for Project Veritas contacted Gizmodo to say that the organization is neither far right nor do we try to trick Democrats and other opponents of Republican dogma. The attorney denied that the organization is a disinfo shop or that it selectively edits, and said the truth of the core facts, they are revealed by people using their own words, and our recordings never changes in any release ever. A previous version of this article referred to a New York Times report that claimed several individuals previously connected to Project Veritas had plotted to have a woman approach former National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster for drinks at a restaurant, and then secretly record him disparaging Donald Trump. Project Veritas further maintained that it was not involved in any way in any investigation involving President Trump's former National Security Advisor. The article has been updated to include Project Veritas's claim. Gizmodo took a New York Times article that insinuated that we were behind it using supposition and mendacious innuendo. In fact, in this New York Times article, it says it's unclear whether. The words unclear were peppered throughout the article, and then it jumped to the next step. It jumped away from that and stated as a fact that we got him drunk. And this is the game of telephone that the mainstream media plays until it ends up on your Wikipedia page on Google, where independent-minded people think that you're guilty of something you're not guilty of. That's the Penrose Stairs paradox, but not for Project Veritas. These lies will remain on the internet unconnected. Tom McKay, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You're a disgrace to journalism. You've made more mistakes in this one article than I have made in my entire career. And I should sue you, but I have better things to do with my time. But in a just world, many people would sue you. Maybe one day, many people will, because I have a dream for the People's Defamation Defense Fund. And all of this could have been avoided if you just did your job. You know, investigated powerful people and did that whole investigative journalism thingy. You know, that investigative, in quotes, journalism thingy, which I know that you're against. And by the way, now I'm ascribing motive to you, and it's a safe thing to do because it's based upon your actions. You hate journalism. You hate investigative journalism. You are what you hate, and you project what you are onto people like me and my reporters who are doing your job for you. So stay tuned. There's going to be an alpaca in the mail with a package with a ribbon on it from me to you. Bye.
He's coming.